In this edited collection, members from Centre for Circular Design have selected projects from across the width and breadth of the UAL showcase, relating to circular design and sustainability, but with an extra twist. Here we feature student work relating to innovative reuse of materials, revaluing waste through upcycling, recycling and regeneration, systems thinking and communication towards fairer, more equitable and local systems, collaborative practices for radical transformation and bio-based futures with clean technology at its heart. We hope you enjoy discovering these fantastic projects as much as we did.
Circularity plus reuse. So I'm really interested in the graduates this year who've been reusing materials in different ways and to push that, that practice a little bit forward. We've been reusing materials for many years, of course, but now where is that thinking going? It's really interesting to see how this is translated across different courses. So I really enjoyed Wendy Yang's work. Wendy is graduating from Chelsea College of Arts from the BA Interior Design course, and came up with a concept called Restore, which was a space dedicated to people bringing objects that they no longer want and sort of donating them, and then there being a shopping experience there for people to sort of reconsume these products. I really love the fact that we're now in the age where we're really looking at new spaces for these kinds of transactions. I've been working with my own research in this year on charity shops and the future of charity shops. So it really strikes me that this is part of that future landscape. And the thing that I really liked about Wendy's proposal was that there would be a place where you could kind of hand over your goods, and then there's also a place where you could kind of reflect on the goods and say goodbye to them, almost make your peace and then pass them over. And it really reminded me of some great work in our research centre by Bridget Harvey, where she talks about the sort of fixperts group that she works with in Hackney, and how sometimes they get products that just can't be fixed, but because people have tried to fix them, they've been through a process of trying to fix them, they're more ready to say goodbye, and that sort of handing over to the recycling route is sort of a better sort of emotional process. So I love that designers are now thinking about the kind of places and the kinds of emotional and psychological experiences that people could have. My second choice is Yasmin Mojaria, and she's graduating from MA, I think it is, yes, MA Design at Central St Martin's. And this collection I just love because it's about industrial symbiosis in a local region, sort of basically 2 or 3 industries beginning to collaborate together to hand over waste that's no longer useful in one context, but makes a fantastic contribution in another context. And so her kind of old doors made into almost site-specific furniture within this sort of geographic location is really fantastic, because we've been reusing materials for ages, but now we're beginning to link up these waste streams and sort of start to evaluate, show each other our different ways of valuing these materials by sort of changing contexts. And then finally is Caitlyn Hardman, who graduated from the BA Textiles at Chelsea. And it's a collection called A Game of Two Halves, Hardman 97. And she's looked at football and football kit, but she's looked at the North-South divide, and she's looked at the way in which actually politicians have framed sort of our cultural experience. And she's really kicked against that. And it's a really ballsy, quite literally ballsy collection, which I totally love. It made me think of all the different ways that we could recycle football kits. It's not what she's doing in the collection so much. She's sort of printing rather than overprinting, but it just made me have so many ideas about taking all of these redundant kits that keep getting reissued season on season, and overcycling them, upcycling them, overprinting them, and giving them different meanings. And then just looking at the way in which she created these almost opposing factions of teams, the North and the South, and almost two different political points of view too, across Tories and other parties. And what you've got there is sort of the blues and the reds, but these really hyper patterned, complex kits. They're still recognizably on the same team, but they're individually really strikingly different. And I just love that. I mean, you know, we're right in the middle of football madness right now, but for me, she's sort of inadvertently rethinking a waste stream, but she's produced a collection that's completely sort of personal. So yeah, those were my selections.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rosie Hornbuckle, and I'm Senior Researcher and Research Fellow at the Centre for Circular Design. My Circularity Plus is undisciplined, really recognising the need for us to not only develop a very deep understanding of our own expertise within our own disciplines, but also to start to push the boundaries of those disciplines by increasing our proximity to other people, collaborating with other types of knowledge, and really getting access to some other different areas in order to innovate and to challenge the way that we see the world, create change. So in that mind, I've selected 3 projects that I thought sort of represented this underdisciplined nature or approach in their work. And the first one is Octopussy by Kit on Dutch Rolls. And this is a really interesting and provocative project for MA Biodesign, which takes a real closer look at some new ways of producing synthetic meat, and how that raises questions about what we're using technology for, and how we meet the needs and desires of our material world when resources are so limited and overused. I really recommend that you take a look at her documentary, where she really challenges us and sort of and actually acknowledges that this is pulls us in different directions. It's not clear cut in terms of the ethics, and the morality of it, and it forces us to ask questions about some really difficult problems in the way that we make things and use technology. The second selection that I've made is by Henry Parkin for BA Fine Art, and his project looks at a kind of well, it's about microfiber pollution in the oceans, and his object is like a kind of, it reminded me of a Wall-E of the aquatic area, which sort of floats around and collects up microfiber using some really clever material science, breakthrough material science really, but within a fine art framework. So conceptualizing how you might reproduce these little, well, I want to say robots, but they don't have any IT in them, but they could be reproduced through a circular system. I thought it was a really nice fusion of sort of a fine art concept and an engineering challenge, which was really great to see. The third choice is Caroline Shah's Every Moment, which is perhaps more conventional in that it takes a more sort of user-centered approach to design, but this is nevertheless important, and having conversations and co-design approaches with users who are often overlooked is a really, really important strategy when we're looking at how to change the way our industries and the way that we conduct our design practices. So I really loved her project, and also with a charitable dimension as well, in an industry really for sportswear which prioritises conventional body types and often overlooks people who are less conventional. So that's me.
My personal selection is based on the idea of systems design and expression. One of the most challenging things designers need to do towards a circular future is to understand the products and materials they work with from a systems perspective. To design for the entire life cycle while upholding their aesthetic and conceptual ambition is not easy. This group of students have done just that in such creative ways, communicating hidden impacts, uncovering local waste streams, and even proposing new architectural visions. Paula Isabel Martin from the MA Material Futures course at Central St Martin's explored the potential of localised systems, using localised source materials, handmade processes, and traditional crafts in her project, Textilised Traditions. She focused on the opportunity that these waste streams present, and in particular was inspired by the stories of the porters at Billingsgate Fish Market. The work focuses on the importance of preservation in relation not only to materials, but also to the communities from where they originate. Explored through the context of a fish skin atelier, her first collection consists of beautiful textile materials transformed from waste fish skin and includes a set of bespoke tools developed specifically for the task. I love the way in this project the seemingly tight restrictions she has placed on her practice have led to such expansive and creative outputs. Bin Lee from the Graduate Diploma Graphic Design course at Chelsea is exploring communication tactics at point of sale using the t-shirt as a model. In her project, a t-shirt is not just a t-shirt. Her thesis is that if consumers could understand more of the complex impacts associated in its complete production and disposal cycle, they might think twice. She demonstrates the lack of meaning in the way we currently label clothes, presenting only the key ingredients and some instructions for care. Her proposition for a labelling system clearly demonstrates the impacts through the very scale of the label itself, an unusually long tape with resource consumption and environmental pollution from the entire supply chain expressed as visual graphics. Lu Zhao has studied architecture at Central St Martin's. In her project, the Cali Infinite Recycle Centre, she explores how the resources in a building can be self-recycled by transforming local waste. It's a multifunctional building proposition that combines retail, accommodation, education, and recycling under one roof. While addressing the multiple needs of local communities, it also integrates local recycling systems and enables people to feel more connected to the materials they consume and waste. We might spend much of our time at CCD exploring the new technologies a centre like this might include, but it's so great to be able to imagine the space that might complete the story.
Hello, my name is David Cross and I'm an artist and reader at UAL. My friends and colleagues at the Centre for Circular Design, based at Chelsea College of Arts, have asked me to pick my favourite 3 works from the UAL Graduate Showcase 2021. In any year, the brilliant works in the Graduate Showcase would be impressive, but under pandemic conditions, it's just amazing. To help focus my research then, it was really helpful that the Centre proposed thematic groupings, and I was immediately drawn to the Fairer Futures grouping, which says, with social inequity exposed and entrenched through the pandemic, we explore how creative practice can amplify voices, encourage empathy, and dismantle systems of bias. Well, I admire works of art and design that through material experimentation, critical reflection, and social interaction aim to transform collective understanding while protecting the safe and just space defined by human rights and ecological limits. But I love works that somehow manage to do all of this while also releasing a wild flourishing of creativity, hope, and joy. So here then are my favourite 3 works from the UAL Graduate Showcase 2021. First up, Tasha Graham, who's graduating in BA Illustration and Visual Media at the London College of Communication. Her project is titled Ain't I a Woman?, after the historic speech on women's suffrage and black rights which was given in 1851 by Sojourner Truth, a speech which has inspired many writers including Bell Hooks. Tasha Graham's images give visible expression to new understanding gained from her own research journey of discovery. Using vibrant colours and strikingly clear graphic forms, Graham's work conveys a sense of strength and determination to connect different aspects of cultural identity across the generations. Next up is Elisa Rusavina, who's graduating from the MA Material Futures at Central St Martin's. Elisa has made a set of sculptural works titled Earth Kinology, which take a playful approach to the serious issue of city dwellers' estrangement from nature. Made from reclaimed waste materials, these lively and colourful sculptural forms attract attention from passers-by. Inviting interaction, the sculptures engage with the conditions of perception, magnifying and amplifying the signals from our more than human neighbours to enable people to reconnect with the planetary ecosystem that's all around us. And finally, Jing He, who's graduating from the Graduate Diploma in Fashion Design Technology at London College of Fashion. Jing He has used fashion to offer a provoking satire on the encroachment of commerce into the most private aspects of everyday life. As the endless pursuit of money and power lays the world to waste, Jing He's project, Working in the Toilet, is a witty warning about a terrible future in which every waking minute of our lives must serve the demands of business. So be warned.
So the students that I have chosen that look at and explore this idea of circularity and regeneration are all doing it in slightly different ways, but they all, from my point of view, share this idea of exploring regenerative practices. So the student Yong Fan Lu, I hope I've pronounced that correctly, is on the MA Biodesign at Central St Martin's. So she's exploring, how can you create some garments or fashion products which can essentially, what she calls bioremediate the soil. So once the garments have been worn, how can they decompose and be composted back into the soil? And how can they, in that process, actually enrich and clean the soils? There's all this research going on with mycelium. So I think her fabrics have included a living mycelium component to them. So this idea that a garment can be worn and then returned to the soil, and it not only decomposes the soil, but it cleans out, if there's soil that's been contaminated, it will clean this soil out. So it's a beautiful, concept for a completely circular product that completely restores and regenerates the soil, once it's finished, once the user has finished with it. And then there's Benjamin Grund. He's done the BA in Textile Design at St Martin's. His project, Wasted Waste. He has looked at, end-of-life clothing and textiles from one of London's big textile recycling facilities. And he's also been researching the flows of secondhand clothing and textiles. Once it's finished in the UK or in Europe, or customers or consumers are finished with it, it essentially gets shipped off to Africa and Asia. And this idea of garments from the West ending up in parts of Africa, and the kind of political ideas of it destroying their local manufacturing industries and also destroying their actual natural habitat by literally having all this excess clothing stock. So he's taken a lot of these old clothes and he's exploring ways to give these fabrics new life. I don't know the exact technical things he's been using, but there's chiffon, there's polyester from old tents and blouses, and he's exploring all these beautiful textile techniques to remake these fabrics into beautiful products. So again, this idea of regenerating and renewing old textiles and giving them a new life. And then the third student, whose work is not textile or fashion related, Julia Radzitz. She is an architecture student. I think she's doing the BA at Central St Martin's. She has done a project looking at an old I think it's an old school hall in East London. It's, you know, it's been, I'm not sure whether it's obviously was used as a school, but now it's not. So her project is proposing how to reuse this building, and she wants the building to be essentially, you know, become a completely multifunctional green space. So there's several elements to the building design. There'll be some winter gardens, which I think is a beautiful idea, particularly, you know, in the UK. There's an area for a market, civic space. Maybe they can have, you know, an open air market. There's allotments for growing vegetables on the rooftop, and there's also housing. So this idea of reviving or restoring an old historic school and turning it into a space for a local community, a green space, but that's multifunctional, I think is really beautiful. So yeah, those are all really ideas and work that I loved. It was such a pleasure to be able to look at all the amazing work, and I wish all the students the best of luck.
Hi, my name is Letitia Forst, and I'm a postdoctoral researcher at UAL, working with the Centre for Circular Design on the Hereware project, which is an EU-funded project which explores bio-based, circular and local approaches to systemic innovation in textiles and fashion. So I suppose this part of my work with the Centre has really influenced quite heavily my selection from the graduate showcase. So my chosen theme is circularity plus biofutures. And through this, I've been really excited to bring together projects that go beyond just using biomaterials and using them in conventional design processes. And instead, I've been looking at projects which consider how working with living organisms can completely change the way that we work and create. And this means seeing circularity as like an inherently biomimic concept. So circularity, as well as being about designing waste out of our systems, is really about finding new ways of collaborating between disciplines and between species. So this means learning from experts, but also learning from microorganisms and ancestral practices of land stewardship, for instance. So Chelsea College of Art graduate diploma in interior design student Morgan Sansey's work, Umami Lab, takes these ideas into interior design practices. And she's been using permaculture principles as an inspiration to design a co-working space that can really foster circular innovation. And as a second project, I really wanted to highlight the fact that research and understanding the existing challenges and opportunities in biomaterials innovation is equally important to creating new things. So Alistair Holloway from the MBA at Central St Martin's has done a review, so a written piece, on living factories as a circular biomaterials innovation. And this is really key to progressing the field, in my opinion. And finally, Elsa Maikomaki from the MA Materials Futures at Central St Martin's has been investigating the horizon for future mining in a world of scarce resources and looking at considerate processes, working with nature to recover resources from metals from waste as a radical shift from our current high energy processes. So biomining can really create a new relationship to materials and to the ways that we can harvest them for circular design. So that was my selection for the Circular Plus showcase, and like there's plenty other projects that are out there that have been really exciting, but I really wanted to highlight these three and hope that you're going to get inspired by the rest of the showcase also. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Catherine Annika Hall and I am a PhD student and postdoctoral researcher at the Centre for Circular Design, and this is Circularity Plus Waste. So I've been looking at the UAL Graduate Showcase and looking for how students have been innovative, thinking about the way that we create and use waste. Whether that's revaluing our waste, such as Ronnie Levy from CSM Jewellery Design and the project Revealing, where Ronnie used onion skins and revalued those and turned them into beautiful pieces of jewellery. Whether we think about how the systems around waste, such as Yasmin Tofano in her Pit Cap project on the CCW Foundation Diploma in Art and Design, where she thought about how coffee capsules could be collected and turned into new products. Whether we even think about how we build communities around waste, such as Manisha Saha's Catalia Centre from her project in CSM Architecture, where she created an entire building around Peckham Rye High Street, bringing communities to think about how they reuse their packaging waste. And then finally, we can even use designs and think about waste in changing behaviour. So Jessica Davies from CSM Textile Design and her Do Not Wash project, in which she thought about the waste materials and how she was using them to encourage people to not wash their textiles as much, releasing less microplastics into the sea and just generally thinking about more sustainability. So as you look through some of these projects in the UAL Graduate Showcase, have a think about waste and check out the students that I've recommended. Waste is now what it has always been, a resource.
My name is Sana, and for Circularity Plus, I've chosen the theme Local Space and Place. These 3 projects showcase a clear need to understand and utilize resources of a specific geographical location, whether that's a country, a city, or a borough, in order to meet circular and sustainable standards for that specific area. And also all these projects involved oceans or waterways in order to nurture nature and humanity. So the first nomination is going to Paula's fantastic collaborative Galician creation space project, which is about creating new objects from local seafood waste in the northwest of Spain and collaborate with basket makers in the area to help regenerate and revive the Galician craft heritage whilst using local waste. My second nomination within this theme is going to Mara's Euphorical nature project, which is focused on the development of a sustainable high-rise building located in Lusail, which is a modern area found in Doha in Qatar. Mara highlighted the importance of understanding the country's traditional and cultural values whilst working with the boundaries of its climate, the heat. And therefore she cleverly designed it to use surroundings, oceans, and incorporate this in the design. And my third nomination is going to Raya's Boat Logs, which is taking it right back to London's urban waterways. And in this project, she incorporates hyper-accumulating UK native plants to design bioremediating floating gardens, which can be made and installed by residents living on the canal boats. And I think it's amazing to see how you can show citizens how to be part of this circular systems lifestyles by starting to understand what surrounds them, its local space and place.
Hello, my name is Emmeline Child and I am a PhD researcher at Centre for Circular Design. Today I'm going to be looking at 3 students under the topic of circularity and upcycling, which is my area of expertise. So upcycling is really important because it keeps the waste streams in the system, stops them from dropping off that linear supply chain into the waste streams overall. Upcycling is important because it adds value to the existing product or material that you are utilising, and is an excellent way of reducing the overall need of virgin materials. So the first student that I have selected is Romy Van Dijkenst. He has used upcycled material as a holder of memories. Adding value to otherwise low value products is a powerful way to question our relationship with clothes. This designer has linked it with the human life cycle and this idea of bringing back and keeping things alive through physical and memory space. The second student that I have looked at is Boy Clothes. This designer has used upcycling to highlight and bring awareness around social change needed in the industry, utilising non-fashion materials in high fashion concepts. This designer changes perceptions and breaks down barriers, much like the overall concept of queer identities within surf culture. The final designer that I have selected is Yana Yaskarova. This designer has used skills in pattern cutting to upcycle materials into commercial and wearable items. This is an area of the industry that's really important to address if we are going to see systemic change across the sector. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy viewing these students as much as I have enjoyed looking at them too.
Hi, I'm Helen Payne, and today I'm going to be making my selections from the Graduate Showcase. The theme I have chosen to make my selections from is transformation. And just to explain that theme a little bit further, when we think about designing products, we need to consider the materials that they're made from, how long they last, and what will happen to them once the product comes to the end of its useful life. So often material lifespans are mismatched with the products that they're used within. Take fast fashion, for example. Polyester material degrades over a period of up to 200 years, and the garment, as we know, can be used as little as 1 to 2 times. So that's a real sort of shocking mismatch, really, in the lifespan of the product and the material. In circular design, material can be used across numerous product life cycles and can even shift across product category. And that's really what I was interested in looking at these projects at the Graduate Showcase, trying to hone in on examples that used a material from a previous product life cycle and reinvented it through a transforming process. So I'll just go ahead with my selections. The first project I've chosen is Fanny Lutz from Chelsea BA Textile Design. She's created a collection of modular garments using only second-hand industrial fabric offcuts and repurposed outdoor materials in her final project, Collect, Convert, Create. So hand-woven ribbons are made from industrial recycled yarns and discarded sea rope to form the building blocks of these modifiable garments. So really kind of forward-thinking in terms of her material selection and also her garment design there. My second selection is Ricardo Canadella from MA Future Materials at CSM, who developed a process of transforming waste carpet offcuts to create a collection of tables in his project Carpet Matter. So the project raises environmental awareness by choosing waste material as its main resource, but also demonstrates how hands-on craft-based practice can be used to add value and transform materials destined for landfill. My final project selection is Shannon Samarx from BA Fashion Pattern Cutting at London College of Fashion. She took tents as her waste stream to convert in her project Salvage Intent, and she worked with the existing form and function of the tent fabric and components to create a really sort of forward-thinking and innovative collection of waterproof streetwear garments. So I was really impressed with that project as well. So, but well done everyone, some brilliant projects and collections with a circular focus. Really enjoyed looking through this year's collections. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Marian Riel. I'm working at Fab Lab Barcelona, and I'm associate researcher in the Center for Circular Design. We used to work on the place, people, and practice for circular fashion systems with Becky and Kate. Today, for the Circularity Plus collection, I have selected 3 projects with an echo on the topic Times for Resonance. So they are challenging the notion of what is resonates and how we resonate in our environments, and about the notion of times, because we lack of time to fully resonate with our environments. So the projects looked for rethinking the relationship to our environment and emphasized the need to reflect and act on the diversity of threats present when living our daily life and designing circular systems. So the 3 projects are Eternal Tree from Yan Pan, which has a really nice design and concept, really familiar with the environments of the YAC and Fab Lab Barcelona ecosystem. There is Times Are Glorious with Luya Ho Lim, who designed a nice dress and film with questioning this notion of time. And we have Living in Your Wear from Wanzima, which is also a really nice research process and bring another dimension on the reflection we have about the place and time we are living in and where we construct with what our homes and our close environments and of course our clothes.